You are watching the New American Media.
You are listening to the Agree to Disagree program on thenewamericanmedia.com.
All right, everybody, if you are listening live, that only took a matter of seconds. If you're listening after the fact, it's because we have split this up on YouTube and on thenewamericanmedia.com, so you can find the issues that you're interested in listening to, and you can omit the others. You and I could definitely talk about Art Modell. Being sports fans, we can get into that a little bit, and if the listeners don't care, they can find another segment. But for this one, I would like to focus on Jerusalem for a second. By the way, if you're listening after the fact, please click subscribe on the youtube.com/the New American Media channel and follow us on Twitter at American_media_. We're back with Bruce Engelman. Bruce is a pastor. He is an author. He is a follower of all things political. He's a historian, and he is my uncle. So I think those are all the disclaimers we need. Let's get into it, because the DNC also had a problem voting on repairing their omission and rewriting to remove the part of their party platform that says they support Jerusalem being the capital of Israel. Can we get some historical perspective as to Jerusalem? Because all most people know that aren't really paying immense amounts of attention to this stuff is that people are always fighting over there. I don't know, just stop fighting already. Can you give us some more historical perspective on the importance of Jerusalem?
All eyes, Brian, focus on Jerusalem 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. It is the religious capital of four religions: traditional and Bible Christianity, or Protestantism, Islam, and of course Judaism itself, where it all started, and Catholicism. Four major religions claim Jerusalem as either their capital, or in the case of the Muslims, their second or third capital, after Mecca and Medina. And so it is a focal point of all religions, directly and indirectly, not to mention a lot of offshoots and sects and cults and so forth, denominations. Now, politically, it is the hotbed in the universe today. Iran says they want to nuke Jerusalem off the map, and will do so the first chance they get. Now, when I was over there last year, and I met with the vice president and several of the generals and colonels in the IDF forces, and several of the cabinet members and Knesset people, I quickly realized that there's a vast Islamic presence in Israel. In other words, there's a lot of Islamic Jews, or a lot of Arabic members of Israel, Arabic citizens of Israel. They're taxi cab drivers, they're merchants, they're very nice people, and even though they are Muslims by faith, they are pro-Israel politically. So it's a hodgepodge. But here's a little nation the size of Rhode Island and Delaware put together, maybe, who everybody wants to annihilate. Everybody hates Israel except maybe the United States and Canada. And here's a country that they fight for their very existence. And the city of Jerusalem, especially, this most historic city, this ancient city, the city of the Bible, everybody wants to own it or possess it or destroy it. And if you read anything about Bible prophecy, Ezekiel 38, Matthew 24, the book of Daniel, the book of Revelation, you clearly see that Jerusalem is where it's all going to happen. And they will try to destroy Jerusalem, but the Bible says it will remain intact. And then one day there will be a new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven.
Well, and on the Ancient Aliens series, they talk about a new Jerusalem, because if you look at the Temple Mount and you look at some of those ancient structures with enormous stone bases, they almost look like landing pads that the big palaces and cities and structures were built right on top of. And when they talk about a new Jerusalem returning, in the Ancient Aliens series, they talk about, Jesus being from the heavens, God residing in the heavens, and Jacob's ladder, and all of these references. I mean, it's basically saying, what if a New Jerusalem is actually a craft or a vessel or some sort of place where things touch down? You talk about the ley lines and where certain energies are and where certain people have allegedly come down to this planet from elsewhere, be it the heavens, be it, just call it the heavens. That's everything but here. So, I mean, the whole concept of returning. Christ saying, I will return, like a thief in the night, I'll be back. And the Mayans talked about Quetzalcoatl returning again. And we're coming up on December 21st, 2012, that the Mayans, they had an enormously long and intricate calendar that's set to expire in a month or two. And it really seems like things are getting ramped up between Iran and Israel. And people are wondering, is this a great final battle? And will someone come down from the heavens and judge the wicked and help the good, or are we going to destroy ourselves? There's a lot of sentiment out there where people are just trying to piece it all together. From your point of view, take it where you want out of all of those concepts rolling together, trying to understand the concept of Jerusalem.
The Bible says in the book of Daniel, Brian, that Satan is called the Prince of Persia. And if you know anything about Middle Eastern history, you know that Iran used to be Persia, and the Iranians are still called Persians. They're not Arabic like their neighbors around them. And, of course, in Iraq, that used to be Babylon, and probably where the Garden of Eden was. So these go back to the original Bible times as stated in the Pentateuch, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And so you have Iran, who pictures Satan, and you have Israel and Jerusalem that pictures God. And for this week, for the Democrats to boo God and Jerusalem is just unbelievable. It probably cost them 1 million votes, but it shows you where the Democratic Party is. Now, as far as Jerusalem is concerned, if you read Ezekiel 38, you will see that Israel will be attacked by Gomer, that's Germany. And I've said for years that Germany will help lead this thing, and you and I are of German descent, but our people over there will attack Jerusalem from the west. Russia will attack from the north, China from the east, and the Arabic and African nations and Islamic nations from the south. But yet God's people will be victorious, and God will protect Israel in these last days. But yes, we are coming close, very, very close to the 12th hour. As Jack Van Impe said, 11:59 and counting. Interestingly enough, Brian, you mentioned Quetzalcoatl. The Mayans and the Aztecs predicted that he would come back in December, I think the 23rd. The Mormons, and I think we probably will have a Mormon president here in a month and a half, 2 months. The Mormons say that Jesus Christ was Quetzalcoatl or vice versa.
And isn't that interesting? Because I've been trying to look at world religions. I was raised Christian. I understand all of, not all the I haven't done this for 30 years like you have. I haven't really, taught the subject, but you look at all of these other major religions and you combine the ancient alien concept where something is descending from the heavens. Yeah, you mix Mormonism in there, and that Quetzalcoatl was a reincarnation of Jesus Christ, or the Christ light, or the Christ spirit, the Christ consciousness, the same type of good thing, the light and wisdom and knowledge and love component that may have landed down on other continents at the same time. But here we are in 2012 arguing over who gets to I don't know who gets to put it on their title, who gets to say, I own this plot of land and I'm in charge and your God is wrong, but my God is right, and hey, let's fight about it if you don't like it. I'm kind of getting tired of the fighting component of this because, once again, I think the only way to handle this is in a libertarian stance where it's like, if we choose to believe in the Christ consciousness and Jesus Christ as the Son of God and the Savior of mankind, okay, and if Islam wants to think their thing, and Judaism wants to preach their things, and the Mormons want to do theirs, and the Mayans want to do theirs. I just don't want to be fighting over this stuff anymore, and I'm wondering if we're ever going to see a way out of this.
Well, we won't, Brian, until the Lord Jesus Christ returns in what we call the rapture. But let me state the obvious and also clarify some facts here. Nearly every religion in the world is peaceful. Judaism is a peaceful religion. Christianity, in spite of what the critics say, is a very peaceful religion. Catholicism, Russian and Eastern Orthodoxy, very peaceful religions. Sikhism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Mormonism, you may not agree with them, but they're very peaceful religions. The Muslims, however, many, not all, but many of them are very violent and very dangerous. And their theme is, if you don't convert, we kill you. And the more Christians and Jews that we kill and the more Americans that we slaughter, the more virgins and wives we'll have in heaven. And Israel has already bent over backwards. They've given the Muslims and the Palestinians control of Bethlehem, where Christ was born on Christmas Eve. They have given half of the Temple Mount to the Muslims, and yet they're never happy. And so, I don't hear of the Jews blowing up buses on the West Bank, but I'm constantly hearing of the PLO blowing up buses of school children and pizza parlors with teenagers in Jerusalem. And so I just get tired of the media. The PLO is the darlings of the American media. They can do no wrong, and the Jews can do no right. And I'm here to tell you, man, I am pro-Israel all the way.
Well,
and by the way, Brian, the Democratic Party used to be,
and then there was a change. But let me get back to a point here, because talking about a religion of peace, I know that Christianity had something called the Spanish Inquisition. I know that Christianity had holy war crusades. There are plenty of black eyes in the corner of people that are supposed to be following a peaceful teaching of Jesus Christ, but you look at the slaughter during the Spanish Inquisition and the torture, the sadistic stuff these people were up to, and then the Holy War Crusades trying to wipe out everything and eradicate it and to take over pagan religions and change some of their holidays into Christian holidays, to co-opt the concept of spirituality. And I think there's plenty of blame to go around here. What would your thought be on that?
Well, do you want the truth or do you want a politically correct answer?
Give me your politically correct answer and then give me the truth.
I love it.
The answer is
yes. You do have a fair and balanced libertarian program. The politically correct answer is there's a lot of truth to what you say, and the Inquisition was very bloody and bad. But the reality, the stark reality is 75 to 90% of the acts of terrorism against the United States since 1775 have been at the hands of the Muslims and the Arabs. Now, your history books won't tell you that. The politicians will deny it out of both fear and political correctness. But the U.S. Navy under John Paul Jones was founded to fight the Barbary and barbarian pirates who were Muslims. Robert F. Kennedy, the senator, was shot and killed by an Islamic terrorist, Sirhan Sirhan. World War I was started when the famous red car in Sarajevo, where the Archduke of Ferdinand was assassinated by a Muslim. And, of course, in recent history, the Kabul Towers, 9/11, the sinking of our ship in Yemen, on and on and on it goes. I mean, we have had problems with these folks for 200 years. Now, as far as the Inquisition is concerned, most of that was conducted by the Roman Catholic Church, and I'm not sure all of it was not unjustified. The Muslims want to take over the world and always have since the publication of the Quran by violence. And the Catholics were simply standing up to that. I'm not saying everything they did was correct, but war is bloody and war is heck. And, the honest and simple truth and reality is, Brian, that if they want a holy war, I say bring it on. I'm not a violent person. I love my Arab brothers. When I was over in the Middle East recently, they treated me royally over there. I love Palestinians. But, if they're going to continue to attack Jerusalem and the United States, I say bring it on. They've been doing it for 200 years, and it's getting to the point where they're going to kill us or we're going to kill them first.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about the history of this country. We've talked about the Revolutionary War. We've talked about the Civil War, and we can get into a little bit of that as well. But on this program, we dance into some territories where you'll never hear Sean Hannity talk about stuff like this, and you won't hear Rachel Maddow get into stuff like this. But one of the things you hear when you start talking about holy wars and you start talking about 9/11 and a war on terror, what some people will say is that the Jewish people are somehow behind the scenes creating false flags such as 9/11 to suck people into war. And then they bring up things saying that the U.S. knew about the bombing at Pearl Harbor and they didn't want to intervene because they knew that that's the only way that the U.S. people would be galvanized into joining World War II. They talk about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, that it was complete PR, it never happened, and that sucked us into other conflict. And it goes on and on with these false flag theories. And a lot of times when you peel back the layers of the onion, what people are really saying is it's the Jews. And I remember reading in history books that that's exactly what Hitler was saying during World War II. And I'm just starting to wonder how the cycles are repeating themselves. What would you say to that type of thought that we hear, when you get into issues and you start going down the rabbit hole, you'll meet people along the way. Sometimes you agree with some of the stuff and disagree with others. Sometimes you totally disagree. And sometimes you're left scratching your head going, man, could it really be that complicated? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say to them simply that they are 100% incorrect. And there is a renaissance of neo-Nazism, and there is a revival of anti-Semitism spreading across France into Germany and across the United States today. And may I add, the Democratic Party is 50% anti-Semitic. And I am sick and tired of the world and the media and the Muslims blaming, and the Europeans blaming the Jews for everything that goes wrong. We talk about the Holocaust, and yet we're promoting a second Holocaust. We go to the Holocaust museums, and we come out and we say, well, the Jews are still responsible for all the illegal banking and all the money and all these conspiracies. Let me tell you something, Brian. Let me tell you what the Jews have given us. The Jews have given us the Bible. The Jews have given us the Messiah, Jesus Christ. The Jews have given us the church. The Jews have given us three different faiths: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. The Jews have given us most of your advances in medicine, like the polio vaccine by Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk was a Jew. The Jews have given us a great economy in the United States and Israel. The Jews have given us democracy. The Jews have given us the law out of the Ten Commandments. And I'm sick and tired of the liberals in this media and the Democratic Party blaming the Jews for every problem that exists in the United States. It's hocus pocus, and it's a bunch of lies and propaganda right back to the Holocaust. And if we're not careful, we're going to have another Holocaust.
And I worry, Bruce, about the future of this country, because the economy that we do have, whatever we were given or whatever we screwed up along the way, $16 trillion of debt. You look at the Weimar Republic in Germany prior to its collapse, which kind of played a pretty significant role in World War II, because when people are desperate, they'll follow anyone, even if they're the wrong person. And how many millions of people killed later did we have to maybe learn a lesson from that? But let me spin off of that one and ask you another controversial question. You talk about the Jewish people, and one of the things you hear, you'll hear about banking, and you'll hear about corrupting a system, and you'll people will recall the turning the money changers tables, and you and I have talked about that briefly, and I'm still just kind of fascinated by the story of Jesus going up to Bank of America or Goldman Sachs and saying no and flipping a table. Is he the 1%? Is he the 99%? Wait a minute, hold on. Who was Jesus? Talk about banking for a minute, because whether it's the Knights Templar, whether it's in 2012 today after a housing crash, or the Great Depression, a lot of people look at the banking industry as a completely corrupt system that only favors a couple of people at the expense of many. It's a wide open topic. Take it wherever you want.
Well, first of all, good question, Brian. I do not think that all bankers are evil. I don't think all banks are evil, and I don't think all banking systems are evil, and I certainly don't think all Jewish bankers are evil. With that said, I am definitely in tune with what's going on and has been going on for centuries with the Knights Templar, with the Bilderbergs, and recently in our history, the CFR and the Trilateral Commission. And there definitely is a shadow government that's influenced by these secret societies, and certainly they have their influence and injection into the banking system. The banking system is no more corrupt than the political system or the religious system. Jesus used the word religion 7 times in the Bible. 6 times he condemned it. Only one time, when he said take care of the widows and the orphans, did he speak of religion in a positive light. The other 6 times he condemned it. So I don't care if it's the medical practices, you're going to have your quacks. In the law profession, you're going to have your con men. Political systems are corrupt. The whole worldly system is corrupt. So to say that the banking industry or the insurance industry is more, or the pharmaceutical companies are more corrupt than any other entity in government or the private sector, I think is a bit unfair. With that said, I do believe that as we see the day approaching before Christ returns, that these organizations, the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, the Skull and Bones, all these organizations are going to come against our system and helped set up the Antichrist government and the false prophet religion. Let me say this. In my lifetime, there have only been 3 people in presidential politics that have stood out against all of this stuff. And your audience is going to be shocked. Ron Paul is one, and President Reagan another. He was not a member of the Trilateral Commission or the CFR, and John F. Kennedy, and that's one reason they shot him.
Oh, they took a shot at Reagan, too, don't forget.
Tried to kill Reagan. And if Ron Paul had gotten close to the White House or in the White House, they may have taken a pot shot at him, too.
Well, I want, and the RNC did everything they could, including changing the rules in the middle of their convention to even prohibit him. We did a segment last week, Bruce, and it was called RNC Trades Ron Paul's Speech for Empty Chair. They literally took Ron Paul and screwed him out of his opportunity to speak and said, hey, Clint Eastwood, we're going to give you an empty chair to laugh at the people who thought that participating in the delegate system actually matters. We're going to laugh at all the people that thought that, I don't know, participating in your local government, whether it's in Maine or whether it's in Minnesota, whether it's Louisiana, across the country where they tried to disenfranchise the Ron Paul delegates, they put an empty chair up there and said, do you really want to mess with us? We're in charge here. And it just seems so corrupt, it's beyond belief. And you brought up a good point a second ago here. You were talking about the whole banking system not being corrupt. And I've made this point multiple times, and I'll keep doing so. A screwdriver is a tool. It is neither a weapon nor anything else necessarily. It's how you choose to use it. If someone should grab a screwdriver and plunge it into somebody's temple, they may theoretically kill a person and make that into a weapon, but that doesn't make a screwdriver good or bad. Same with guns. I've never shot a person. I don't intend to. But I want to protect my life in case I had to. A car is a 3,000-pound weapon if you choose to go up on the sidewalk and run people over. But it's neither good nor bad. It's just a vehicle. And that's what my point is with the dollar. The dollar is supposed to be a neutral barter component. And in the Constitution, it says that the Congress is supposed to coin currency. But back in 1913, on Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve pulled a little deal where they took over the dollar system. And now they print money and loan it back to us at interest. It's like Al Lerner convincing Art Modell to steal the Browns and then buying the new franchise that takes over the Cleveland Browns. And you're saying, wait a minute, you took this away from us and now you're giving it back to us and we have the privilege of making you money in the process? Hang on, something's a little wrong here. So I know I just crossed into sports and Art Modell because we did want to talk about that if we had time, but it kind of ties into a much greater issue. A dollar as being a barter item is neither good nor bad, but if it's manipulated, just like Al Lerner manipulated Art Modell into stealing the Browns and then buying the Browns back and then selling the Browns away at a huge profit, people feel like we're getting screwed here, whether you're a Browns fan or an investor. What do you think about those things?
I like your analogy of the screwdriver and the guns and the automobile. And yes, conceivably or ostensibly, they all can be used as weapons, but that was not the designated purpose for any of them. The screwdriver was designed to place a screw in a hole and build something as a tool. The car was designed to be transportation, Henry Ford, and then of course the other was what was the other?
Just the dollar. We're back to just a barter piece
of
currency.
The dollar. I believe like Ron Paul, and I'm glad to hear Mitt Romney echoing the same thing. We need to go back on the gold standard yesterday. And as you know, the feds took over, as you said, in the 30s, and then the nails were pounded in the coffin under Richard Nixon, who I think was a very good president in spite of Watergate and a great leader. But he devalued the dollar and took it off the gold standard. So I believe that we need to go back to the gold standard. We need to eliminate this debt, and we need to pay off all of our bills and indebtedness and our national debt. There's a difference between a balanced budget and a national debt, by the way. We need to take care of both, and we're in trouble. But, yes, the dollar is just a piece of paper, for crying out loud.
Well, it is a piece of paper unless that piece of paper used to be gold and silver, and it used to have a value. I mean, the dollar in the United States, the U.S. Federal Reserve note has lost more than 96% of its purchasing power in the last 100 years, since the 30s, rather. Since the Great Depression, the Federal Reserve taking over in 1913, and then the Great Depression in 29, going into the 30s, but it's lost 96% of its purchasing power. I spent $65 to fill up my gas tank the other day. I used to fill it up for $10, $15. Now that's money that is going out of the pockets of your mother, of your father, your kids, your spouses, your friends. That's theft. And people are, whether it's Occupy Wall Street or the Tea Party, people are sensing that the system is rigged, it's corrupt, and it seems like nobody's addressing it. What are our people to do when the barter item, just like in Rome, they would shave off pieces of the gold and silver coins, melt them down and make new coins? They're just cheating. They're adding inflation, taking extra dollars for themselves, and making what you have way less, so it's way less valuable. What are we supposed to do with this manipulation of the currency?
Well, I think that it is being ignored by most politicians. Ron Paul and the representative from Wisconsin who's running for vice president are the exceptions. And we need to either do away with the Fed or eliminate their power. We need to give the money and the government back to the people. We need to go back on the gold standard. We need to value the dollar instead of devalue it. And so that's the bottom line. That's what we need to do.
Well, if we're talking Federal Reserve, we've already talked about Jewish influence and possible false flags. We're getting into almost every conspiracy imaginable. I briefly touched on 9/11, and I think what we'll do is we'll make a little hard pivot here, and we'll go over to one of the most talked about and debated conspiracies. You referenced talking to Jesse Ventura on the grassy knoll, and I'm obviously talking about the JFK assassination. This is the granddaddy of all conspiracy theories. This is the big one. I mean, it's right up there with 9/11. It's right up there with the Gulf of Tonkin. It's right up there with the attack on Pearl Harbor, and it's an issue that you, as an author, tackled as a subject. And I think for anyone out there that gets offended or uncomfortable with the concepts of questioning organized religion, of questioning monetary policy, of questioning political situations, questioning the leaders might actually kill to get what they want, I think that's the basis of where we need to go. We just need to seek truth, challenge dogma, and have a little fun along the way, and that's what we're trying to do here at the New American Media. So what I want to do, Bruce, is I want to take a quick break and come back on the other side. This will be about a 3-minute break, and then when we get back, Bruce, I want to talk about John F. Kennedy and the assassination, because it's a topic near and dear to your heart. We're coming up on an anniversary, not really an anniversary of... I don't know, a mark of shame, rather, because anniversaries are usually joyous, but we're going to be
commemoration, let's call it.
A commemoration, yeah, because I think, and I've said this before, I think it does something pretty nasty to the general population when a leader is murdered in front of your eyes. Doesn't that tell you that you better not speak up, you better not stand out, because even if you're the president, you can be killed and removed, and we can continue along our merry way of screwing you over. So it gets into all of these things, whether it's religion and government and money and control and manipulation and whatnot. So we'll take this quick break, Bruce. It'll be 3 minutes, and I'll be right back on the other side. We're going to talk about the John F. Kennedy assassination here on the NewAmericanMedia.com.
You are listening to the Agree to Disagree program on the NewAmericanMedia.com.
There's going to be an actual 3-minute break?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I'm in an elevator right now in an office building in downtown Dallas.
All right. Be sure that you go on to Facebook.com and do a quick search for The New American Media and like our page, because we like it when you do that. TNAM Radio, because the news always matters. Hi, Brian from the NewAmericanMedia.com. Last year I had this idea. I wanted to start a website of my own, not just something, a presence on Twitter, a presence on Facebook, and have a thing. I wanted a website. I wanted a home base for all of the ideas and things I'm interested in. I wanted live radio. I wanted to communicate with the globe. I was tired of being spoon-fed dogma by corporate interests and just, here, believe this. I said, no, I think there's something underneath the surface, but I didn't know how to do it. So I contacted Ted Distel of DistelDesign.com. Ted walked us through the process of, okay, you want videos, you want to do quotes of the day, you want to have a spiritual section, you want to have a 1984 watch where governments intruding and private corporations are intruding into your privacy. Yeah. Yeah, those are the things that I was interested in. Ted walked me through the process. We built thenewamericanmedia.com, and I encourage you to go online and take a look at our site. That's what he's capable of. Please, if you have an idea, go to disteldesign.com. That's DISTEL design.com.
Have you ever considered adopting a pet to be part of your family? Our animal companions can be just as close to us as our human companions. If you're considering adoption, please visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. Shelter pets make the best pets.
Follow thenewamericanmedia.com on Twitter at American_media_.
This is The New American Media. Hi, it's Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. I'm a sports fan. I was raised in Cleveland, spent 25 years in Ohio. I watched the drive, the fumble, the shot too. I watched Art Modell steal the Cleveland Browns and win a Super Bowl over in Baltimore. I watched a horrible coach named Bill Belichick go on to the Patriots and win Super Bowls over there. Hooray. I am a bitter sports fan. Let's not even talk about what happened with he who shall not be named, who went to South Beach to take his talents there. Excuse me, I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit there. I am a sports fan who cares to talk about the things that matter to me. That is the Indians, the Cavs, the Browns, and the Buckeyes. But of course, I pay attention to national sports, and we discuss that on our show as well. That's why we have The Unhappy Hour every single Friday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific. Sit down, have a drink. It's the end of a long work week, and we can all get together and talk about the unhappy times that we've had as sports fans. We've all had them. We've had ups and downs, but as Cleveland fans, we only have downs. Join us. If you're tired of the other stuff, take a look at thenewamericanmedia.com.
You are listening to the Agree to Disagree program on thenewamericanmedia.com.
You are watching The New American Media.